Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta. We're a Minnesota sports podcast, so if you're a Minnesota sports fan, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're a Timberwolves fan and you're loving the way that they've been playing as of late, smash that like button because Timberwolves have won 7 of their last 8 games. They've moved all the way up into a tie for the 5th seed with the Clippers, who obviously hold the tiebreaker after I think they've already beaten us 3 times this season. So that's kind of understandable, but we've pulled back even with them, even after losing to them 3 times. Obviously jumping teams like the Lakers, the Trailblazers, the Nuggets, who are all kind of struggling at the moment. But I mean, who knows if it's going to last where the Wolves are a top 6 seed in this Western Conference, but you have to be encouraged over the last 8 games because it hasn't just been, you've had cupcakes like the Kings and the Spurs and some really bad teams, but you've also beaten the Heat. The Pacers was a gritty win the other night. I mean, they've been in some competitive, games here with some teams that are fairly decent, and it's not like they're just beating the bottom of the barrel. So
won that great game against Philly.
Yeah, the Sixers, yes, that was a fantastic game, especially with Cat falling out. So yeah, just great wins across the board here over the last couple of weeks, and it's really been great to see. I mean, you're getting contributions from basically everybody. Beasley had that 29-point game. Was that against the Sixers?
Yes. Him, Cat, and D'Lo all went off in that game, I think. Or no. When was Beasley's big game?
Or was that the Heat game?
I feel like that might have been the Heat game. Because I want to say, no, I think Cat got in foul trouble right away in that one. Yep. Because with Bam inside, that's what it was. So yeah, Beasley went off against the Heat.
Yeah, that's what it was. Either way, I mean, Beasley's been contributing. You're getting great defense out of Vanderbilt and McDaniels. Basically all the way up and down the lineup, you're getting great contributions. We've seen a little bit of Leandro Bolmero here lately with Patrick Beverley being out. So I guess, where do you even want to start with these guys? What's really impressed you the most about this team over the last couple of weeks of play?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going right now. We've done a lot of good things across the board, across the roster. I mean, obviously, that's going to happen when you win 7 of 8, and it's not just going to be on one guy usually. So this is great momentum for us moving forward. Now we're 25% of the way through the season. We're sitting where we'd want to be, a game over 500. So I think that's huge. And obviously, you said you don't know if it's here to stay or not, but we've certainly seen some encouraging signs. I think I'd probably look at, obviously, the emergence of D'Angelo Russell into his best form, I would say, just because he struggled early on, and I think that's part of the reason why we had a slow start out of the gates after that 3-1 start. We tanked all the way down to 4-9, but then D'Lo's really come alive, and he's been amazing. And then also Ant and Cat are doing their thing. As long as Cat's not getting in foul trouble, he's put together a great season, and I think that's just his biggest Achilles heel, really, is just the fouls. Outside of that, he's played good basketball. And then Ant, you're seeing a evolution into his second year. He's gaining more confidence every night, and I think he's the biggest energizer on this team. I mean, every time you watch a home game for the Wolves, like when Ant gets going, the Target Center goes crazy. So I think that's not a coincidence. So I think we need to keep getting him putting him in good spots to succeed, because then you're going to get your crowd into it in these home games. And home games, you got to win a good amount of those to put yourself in a good spot at the end of the season. So I like all that. And then looking more into the role players, I would say Vando, obviously, he's been massive on the boards. I mean, you wouldn't really think it with this team, with the Wolves, that they'd be 11th in rebounding in the entire league, but they are. And I think that has a big deal to do with the offensive rebounding, which we're actually second in offensive rebounds per game, and we're scoring all sorts of second chance points. So I think that's massive, and I think that has a lot to do with Vando and his effort, because
for sure
I feel like we've seen some regression from Cat as far as the rebounding, but I think it's just different philosophy really going into how we play. And I think Vando's just all over the place and getting those boards, which is huge for us, because we're basically making up for rebounding numbers on the offensive glass, because on the defensive glass we're kind of getting hammered. But because we had this Sabonis performance of 25 rebounds, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, I'd say Vandal's been a good energizer, and I would say that Pat Bev's been huge for the team. Not necessarily on the court even, because he's missed a good amount of time now because he's been hurt. But as far as just his leadership and getting into games from the bench, that's been huge. And I mean, you can go on and on about this team. Beasley, I think he's gotten better every night, and that's huge. And like you said, he had that great game against we think it's Miami. I'm almost positive it's
It
Miami.
is Miami, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's been awesome. So I mean, then you think about the coach too, like beyond just the
Yes.
roster. You think about the coach. I think he's really guiding this group just the way that you should. I think this is nice to finally have a coach you feel like you can fully trust, and you can definitely just see it. I think everybody clearly respects him, and I think he's the right guy to lead this team. So I mean, there's a lot to get excited about here. I was really scared this was just some classic Wolves season that we started 4-9, but now when
Yeah.
it's 7 of 8, now I'm fully back on the train. I'm really excited about where this is going. I just hope we can sustain momentum. And truthfully, I'd probably be satisfied with hanging somewhere around 500 the entire season. And like I said, I think the biggest thing is just getting in the top 6, then you're guaranteed a playoff series if you can get there. But again, I want to temper expectations. I know it's easy to go way up higher than they should when things are going good. But I mean, there's a lot of reasons to get excited right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to bring it out to a larger scale of the team in general, because you kind of broke it down by each player.
Mm-hmm.
The Wolves are currently 5th in the NBA in defensive rating, which is insane to think about. Like the Timberwolves,
You never would have guessed that coming into the year. No.
Historically horrible defensive team, especially with Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it's different this year. Everyone's bought in. D'Angelo Russell's playing the best defense of his life for sure. That's the Pat Bev effect, like you kind of mentioned earlier. Over the last 8 games, we're a top 10 offense to go in conjunction with that. So now they're kind of starting to figure out the offense, how they flow together, especially the big three. We're seeing them score 20 plus together more often now.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're the highest. They're the only big three in the NBA that scored 20 plus in the same game for 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
No other big three has done that. So that's encouraging. They're starting to figure out the offense, because going into the season, we're like, well, the offense is the strong suit of this team without question. And now it's like it's proving to be the defense, and the defense is creating offense.
Yep.
They're getting out and running in transition. Obviously, Anthony Edwards is an electric player in transition. All these dunks and alley-oops he's throwing down, I mean, like you said, just gets the target center buzzing. I mean, just absolutely crazy. So, and yeah, Chris Finch, honestly, just a fantastic coach. I mean, it's so nice the Timberwolves finally just have a true professional, steady coach in there. He never gets too high, never gets too low. He'll get a technical every once in a while when he needs to. He's kind of like the anti-Rocco Baldelli. He'll get upset when he needs to, but I had to get a shot at Rocco in there. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Chris Finch, and I think he's pressing all the right buttons in terms of like the lineups he's putting out there, playing D'Angelo Russell with the 2s, making him the first sub off the court, getting Beasley in with the starters. I just think super smart move. And then moving Pat Bev to the starting lineup before he got hurt was obviously a huge addition as well. So
the efficiency between him, that combination of 5 between him, Vando, and then our big 3 has been incredible.
Yeah, but the highest net rating in the NBA of a starting 5, so or any group of 5. So that's extremely, extremely encouraging. And that's my thing is we're 11-10. Obviously, we had a rough stretch. We've won 7 of 8, but it's like in terms of how we're playing, it's like we still are not playing, perfect games by any means.
No.
I mean, the Heat game, we were kind of trailing, and then we had a great fourth quarter. The Pacers game was ugly. We were trailing most of the game, kind of fought back with a great third quarter by Ant, and then just kind of hung on. It's like we still aren't playing amazing, but we're still winning games.
Exactly.
And I just feel like this team's going to keep figuring it out and keep playing better.
Yeah, I feel like you're definitely right there. I think there's still more room to grow. If you look at the field goal percentages as we're team percentages across the NBA as we're recording this right now, Timberwolves are actually 26th in the NBA, and there's only 30 teams. So we're literally bottom 5 in shooting percentage, but yet here we are. We're 11-10 and right where we want to be. So I think there's a lot of room to improve the offense, and I think they will get there because we've seen this in the past from all these guys. They all shoot better percentages than they are right now. Outside of Cat's top 10 in the league right now in 3-point make percentage,
Right.
And then you got, speaking of 3-point makes and 3-point shots and things like that. Like hopefully our 3-point percentage improves because to this point, we've attempted more threes in the as a team than any other team in the NBA. Like we lead the league in 3-point attempts, and right now we're also 21st in percentage. So if our percentage can get a little bit better, like I think our offensive output's going to go way up, and I think you're going to see more bigger wins like we saw early in the winning streak where we're winning by like 23 a game on average or something like that. And I kind of think too, I'd like to see Ant he takes a lot of threes, and he's top 5 in the league actually, or I think it was top 5. I think he's 5th in 3-point makes this year across the NBA, and he's shooting 34% right now. So if you think you can push that to another 37, 38% or something like that, then Ants can hit another level, which you wouldn't really think, because like you think he's already playing pretty well right now. I think the shooting could get a little bit more efficient, but at the same time, if he gets going on his threes, it's game over. I mean, that's the same way he looks on the court. Like he said that himself. Once he hits a three, if he's hit that first shot, then it's over for the other team.
Right. And I love that he wants to take those shots, but yeah, it does seem like sometimes he gets a little too comfortable with just pulling up and shooting the three, rather than like games like the Pacers game. I'm like, this guy can get to the rim whenever the heck he wants. They don't have anyone that can stop him from getting there. Exactly. So it's kind of frustrating. And then of course he missed like 4 or 5 layups in that game. And turns out now he's got flu-like symptoms. So maybe that had something to do with it too. But let's get into D'Angelo Russell a little bit though. Cause I mean, really, I think the key to this winning 7 of our last 8 games has been D'Angelo Russell really locking in on defense, playing a much more efficient game on offense. His assists have gone way up in this stretch. He's rebounding the ball better. He's becoming more of a vocal leader, floor general. He's calling out stuff on defense. I mean, I don't know what changed ever since he came back from that ankle injury he had early on in the season, but he's been a completely different player since he's come back.
He's definitely played a lot better, and I think he's playing with like a chip on his shoulder, I'd say. I think he's definitely one of the better point guards in the league right now. With the way he's playing, he's one of the best, I think, because of his clutch ability. I mean, all these big games for the Wolves that come right down to the wire, like he's been there making it happen, and I think that's the reason we're winning a lot of these games. Like there's no way you can envision any sort of win for the Wolves without D'Lo and Philly. Like that was one of the best performances you'll ever see. I think. Yeah. I think that was easily the best one we've seen from D'Lo in a Wolves uniform. But I mean, if you think back on it, like how many vintage performances do you feel like you can recall on this Wolves team in general from anybody? So I think that was huge. Like you said, it's not just when you think of D'Lo like coming into the season, you kind of think of a score first guy, and then beyond that, it's a little iffy basically everywhere else. But really, like you said, he's had a really well-rounded game this year. I think he's contributing defensively. I mean, he's got the long frame for a point guard, so I think that's huge. That's helping, and I think he's just playing intelligently. And he attributes some of it to Pat Bev is there obviously, but then he also goes back to Golden State when he played Draymond Green. Draymond Green's one of the better defenders in the league, and he says that helps him buy in on defense too, just that mentality. But he took away something from that, so I think he's playing great defensively. If he could play great defensively, that's huge, because like basically we didn't expect almost anything out of him, or really this big three in general as far as defense goes. Like you just hope it's going to be adequate. They're just not a total liability, but we're getting a lot more than that right now. I mean, you could tell with the numbers as a team, even like I think right now we're second in the league in blocks per game, 4th in steals per game or something. Yeah. So like the D is there, and like you said, we're top 10 in defense, just across the league. So I think, there's a lot to be excited about, and I think that really starts with D'Lo. I really do, because he's been just showing up, I guess, like compared to anybody else. And I know I told you this last time we were watching the game that it feels like D'Lo takes over, and he should, because the rest of the team, I don't know, we get these stagnant stretches in fourth quarters that I just don't like, where the ball stops moving. And truthfully, if you talk about ISO players, D'Lo is probably the best ISO player on the team if we're not going to move the ball. But
for sure,
the guy just knocks out shots, and he doesn't get fazed by the big moments, and he's calm, cool, collected at the end. I mean, he's got the ice in his veins.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nice because it really seems like D'Lo is starting to figure it out, like how to play a well-rounded game.
Yes.
He's figuring out the leadership part of it. Like he's shouting stuff from the bench. He's encouraging guys. He's been way more vocal this year than he has been in the past. And maybe it's just because it's his 3rd year here. He's finally just, comfortable. He's settled in, because it's been 2 kind of weird seasons since he's been here. So it's nice to see him figuring out, as a 7th-year player, kind of how to play a well-rounded game. And I'd like to see more of that from Cat, honestly. Cat's been super efficient on offense, like he always is. Yeah. And he's been a pretty good defensive player, too. But my issue with him, like you said earlier, he's regressed in rebounding significantly. I think he's only averaging like 9 rebounds a game, which for him is not good. I mean, the guy can average like 12 rebounds a game. I'm pretty sure his career average is somewhere around 11 or 12 rebounds a game. And he's fouling way too much still, especially on the offensive end of the floor. He's just way too wild trying to drive to the basket. And part of the problem I have with him, like when he drives, he's just like he's flailing. He's like
It's out of control.
He's out of control. It's like he's too slow getting to the basket. If he really just put his head down and went quick, I think it would benefit him more rather than like trying to exaggerate and draw a foul. And because that's when he ends up fouling is he's exaggerating, he's pushing his front arm out, he's shoving the defender, and he's getting an offensive foul. And that's how you get in foul trouble quickly. You pick up a couple offensive fouls, you're bound to be in foul trouble because on defense you're going to pick up fouls as a skinnier center. So
yep, and that's another reason why D'Lo's so huge for this team. If Cat's gonna get in foul trouble, then if like D'Lo's not there, then who are we really banking on? Because obviously it would really be the Ant show, but beyond that, I don't know. It gets a little bit more questionable. So I think it's massive to have D'Lo for cases like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we kind of wrap up here, let's just take stock of the West.
Sure.
I know it's early. I mean, like you said, we're 25% of the way through the season, but honestly, that's a pretty good chunk already. So, I mean, it's kind of a nice time to reevaluate. So obviously you got Golden State and Phoenix way out in front. Those are probably going to be the top two seeds in the West, the way it's looking. I mean, Phoenix is on a 16-game winning streak, which is just outrageous. Golden State, 9-1 in their last 10 games. They only have 2 losses overall. And then Utah's the 3rd seed. They're sitting there pretty comfortably with a 3-game cushion on both sides. Then you got Dallas, Clippers, and Timberwolves. They're all 7.5 games back. Dallas has a slight edge in winning percentage just because they played less games. But then after that, you got the Lakers, who are just a mess, honestly. Now I saw LeBron's in the COVID protocols. He's going to be out for at least 10 days probably. Memphis Grizzlies are 500. Ja Morant's got a knee sprain. Denver Nuggets come in at the 9 seed. They just lost Michael Porter for the season. Jamal Murray's already going to miss a good chunk of the season after tearing his ACL last season. And then you got Portland, who's 10-11 as the 10 seed, and they don't really have any injuries or any issues going on. I just think that's a team that they kind of keep bringing back the same old team, and it's not getting any better, So I honestly think the Wolves can be in a pretty good position in this West based off of injury luck, and just some teams are just flat out kind of a mess right now.
Yeah, when you put it like that, when you detail all the problems with these other teams that were around in the standings, it makes the possibilities pretty favorable. Actually, I think there's a real opportunity there to finish top 6. Like I said earlier in this video, that if we finish top 6, you guarantee yourself a playoff series, and I think a lot of Wolves fans would definitely take that just because we've only been in the playoffs once since 2004, so that'd be massive. Even if you don't manage to win that first round series, still you're in it, and that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But and plus, I mean, obviously, the higher you get in the seeding there, then better chance you have to win the series. Actually, just because if you end up at checking in at 8 for the playoffs and putting like Golden State in the first round, yikes, that's a pretty steep task. But really, if you get all the way up to 6, then you're avoiding Phoenix too, and Phoenix has a playoff pedigree because obviously they just went to the finals last year. So then you make it a lot more interesting, make it a lot more competitive, make it a lot more optimal, really. So that'd be great. I think there's a real chance there to finish top 6, but again, got to take it game by game a little bit too, and not get carried away with this hot streak of 7 of 8. So let's see how we get or see where we're at once we get to halfway through the season.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it too. And what's kind of crazy to me is, I don't know, maybe I just don't know that much about the NBA, but I really thought the Clippers were going to slide back with Kawhi being out. And I guess I just didn't give much respect to like Paul George, Reggie Jackson, Zubats. Like, I mean, those guys are playing pretty well as a unit. They kicked the Wolves' butt 3 times already this season. So, I mean, they've slid a little bit here in their last 10 games. They're 4-6, but I mean, that's
their
a
Western
team.
Conference Finals team last year.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of a surprise too. So it's like, that's a team that, Paul George can kind of carry a team if he needs to. So it's like, that's a team that I'm somewhat scared of just because they've beaten us 3 times this season. But like the Mavs, it's like, if you can find a way to shut down Luka, I think we can beat the Mavs, no problem. I mean, they got some size, but I'm not a big Mavs guy either, honestly. And obviously the teams below us, the Lakers, at the end of the year, they'll be there. I'm guessing, unless, LeBron's just going to miss a ton of games. It seems like every time he comes back, he's out for another stretch of games. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say they'll figure it out soon enough. They have enough guys there that won before that they'll at least get in. But beyond that, I have no idea. I don't know if this team will ever fully gel enough for them to actually make a serious championship run. But I don't see a scenario where they don't make the playoffs. I mean, if they don't, Vogel's gone, and I don't know what they're going to do with the roster in the offseason, I guess. But
Yeah,
I think they signed everybody basically to a bunch of 1-year deals, though, didn't they?
I think so. And they got an older team too, so it's like I could honestly see them being a play-in team, whether it's like the 7 or 8 seed. They probably won't be the 9 or 10, but if they keep up with this, kind of crap pace, I mean, I can see them being a 7 seed, or I don't know. They'll probably get into the top 6, I would guess, but
Probably.
um,
What if let's say they did what they did last year? Yeah, they end up the playing game. They lose that first one, then all of a sudden they manage to squeak in at 8, and then they play a good Golden State team in the first round.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like their chances against Golden State. That's for sure. I honestly don't like anyone's chances against Golden State right now.
Not right now. I mean, they're 18-2, and everybody keeps talking about it. Like the last how many times, and ever since 2015, they've gotten out these ridiculous 20-game starts, like
Yeah.
17-3, 18-2. And that year that they won 73 games, they started 20-0, and I kind of forgot about that, to be honest.
Oh,
But
wow.
so it's like that's not some team you want to face. And they went to the NBA Finals every year, so
Yeah.
I don't know. They just know how to win there. So like you said, not anybody's that's not anybody's preferable draw in the playoffs.
No, and then like Denver's always a tough team. Like they have a really good system in place, but when you're missing two of your better players, they still have Jokic and Aaron Gordon, but outside of those guys, they don't really have anyone that stands out that you're really scared of. Portland, I think, is super beatable. Like if you can, it's kind of like with the Mavs. If you can shut down Dame, you know, they got McCollum, I guess, but other than that, they don't really have anybody. So, I mean, yeah, I think obviously the Wolves still aren't proven. I mean, they have to show that they can do this throughout the course of a season. We just saw them go on a horrible skid before this winning streak. So,
They got to stay healthy. All these other teams
yes.
are incurring injuries. Let's hope that doesn't happen to us. I hope we left that in the past of last year.
Yeah, for me, it's been encouraging that we basically had 20 games so far of D'Lo, Cat, and Ant all on the floor at the same time.
That's
We've
huge.
we've needed that so much. We've seen how they can play together now. So now it's just about keeping the guys healthy. They know how to play together, and they're learning more and more as each game passes. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all bought in on defense, and that's the important thing. If you can play defense at a high level, you're going to be a playoff team. And I
And
think
you're
it's
going to be in every game.
yeah, and I think it's pretty. I mean, it's still early, but I think it's pretty safe to say we're definitely going to be a top 10 seed. I don't want to I don't want to jinx it, but I mean,
yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's ever a definitely with the Wolves, but I think there's like a 95% chance of it, I'd say.
yeah,
Just because the teams after the top 10, I don't like any of them. I mean,
no.
they're all in bad spots. The Kings fired Luke Walton, when did that happen?
That was a couple weeks ago, I think
Yeah,
already.
that was a couple weeks ago already. So yeah, they're firing their coach mid-season, like barely into it.
Yeah,
And then you got the Spurs, who don't really have any noteworthy stars, and then
no.
you got Oklahoma City, who's clearly not trying to win at
Yeah,
all.
they've lost 6 in a row now.
They got 35 first-round picks or something the next 7 years, like literally 35.
That's
or no,
insane.
35 draft picks. Yeah, 35 draft picks. Or if I said first rounders, 35 total draft picks, but still it's ridiculous. And then
Yep.
beyond that, you just got some dog water teams like New Orleans and Houston. They have no business to do anything. So then you're left with your 10. I feel like it's clearly defined already.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, Houston and New Orleans and Oklahoma City are for sure out of it. The Spurs, I mean, there's always that little chance with Popovich, but like you said, they just don't have any firepower.
No.
So really, I think that leaves the Kings, who actually have some decent players, but the franchise is just a disaster. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then their best players aren't even that great. Like they got Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox has kind of been disappointing. So I don't know. I think as long as the Wolves avoid injury, like you said, I think they're going to be for sure a top 10 seed. And now it's like if they can avoid these large losing streaks, if they can just not go on any 4+ game losing streaks from here on out, kind of stick around 500. I mean, there's a long way to go, but I don't know. I think the 6th seed in the West might not be that much higher than 500 the way it's looking.
Yeah, with the way these teams are shaping up and all the issues you detailed, yeah, I mean, I think it's there for the taking. We just got to play consistently, like you said, avoid the long losing streaks, avoid key injuries, and I think we'll be fine. I think we could realistically be in a driver's seat for one of those top 6 seeds, which would keep us out of those playing games entirely, which would be a huge step forward and well beyond expectations I had coming into the season.
For sure. So, yeah, this was kind of a long-winded Wolves discussion, but I think it was
Yes.
needed. I mean, they've been playing so well, and obviously our Wolves videos have gotten great responses as well in terms of the amount of people that are viewing them. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll keep talking Wolves, especially if they're going to keep playing this well. So,
Yes.
yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I said earlier, if you're new to the channel, if you're a Minnesota sports fan, Minnesota Timberwolves fan, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram and leave your comments below. What's impressed you with the Wolves so far? Where you think they stack up in the West? And just any other thoughts you have about this team. So thanks for watching.